Welcome to the afternoon MTSS Fest 2020 session. What is culturally and linguistically responsive teaching with VABB? Our presenter today is Michelle Belnavis. She's a technical assistance coordinator from the Wisconsin RTI Center. We're very happy to have her join us today and very fortunate that she's joining us all the way from the Central Time Zone. I want to thank you all who are signed in for joining us today. We're happy to have you here. As you know, we quickly shifted from our planned conference in a couple weeks that was going to be in person in the Seattle area to this virtual format, and I think it's going very well so far. And the upside is that we're able to accommodate more attendees at each of these breakout sessions than we could if we were in a physical space. So a lot more people will get to hear this content today. I want to thank our hosts and sponsors, the Northwest Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, Kaiser Permanente, and the University of Washington Smart Center, as well as those of us from OSPI who are your hosts today. I'm Mark McKechnie. I am the Senior Consultant on Equity and Student Discipline in the Center for the Improvement of Student Learning at the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. I get exhausted every time I have to say my whole title because it's so long. And I'm really pleased to introduce Michelle Belnavis, which I'll do in a minute. But we have a little housekeeping before that. If I can advance my slide. There we go. So a few things to keep in mind. We've had a lot of questions this morning during our first couple sessions about the logistics today. Pretty much everything that you're going to want to access either during or after the session today can be found on the MTSS Fest 2020 website on the OSPI main site. I put the URL here, but you can also just go to OSPI's website and search for MTSS Fest 2020. The hashtag for sharing on social media today is hashtag MTSS Fest 2020. And lower on the MTSS Fest webpage are some important links for you. You will find Michelle and other presenters' PowerPoints and other materials under this link here that says Agenda and Registration. Once you click on that link, you'll see all the sessions listed, and you can click on individual sessions to find the presenter information and their materials. You can also, if you haven't already registered to get clock hours through PD Enroller and you would like to, you can click on the clock hours link here on the page. If you've already registered through PD Enroller, you don't need to re-register, but this is only if you only registered for the Zoom and did not register through PD Enroller as well to get your clock hours. So that's the housekeeping for now. And then in the on or around May 4th, the recordings of this presentation and all the other presentations today will be posted for you to review and to share with others as well. So you can always visit this webpage for all the information that you might need. So with the housekeeping out of the way, it's my pleasure to introduce Michelle Belnavis. She is a technical assistance coordinator at the Wisconsin RTI Center and a long-term colleague of our current MTSS director here in Washington, Justin Poulos. So we're very fortunate that he was able to impose upon Michelle to join us today to provide this session. Michelle is a double graduate of the University of Wisconsin, bachelor's degree in elementary ed and master's in curriculum and instruction. She's the proud mother of college and high school students, Darian and Izzy, and she has 36 years of experience, including as a classroom teacher, Title I reading recovery teacher, cultural relevance instructional resource teacher and leader, and culturally responsive technical assistant coordinator inspired by Dr. Hawley's Center for Culturally Responsive Teaching and Learning. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your presentation. And we'll be taking a few minutes at the end for everybody to answer questions. So you can use the Q&A function to ask your questions and Any for Michelle to answer, we'll hold till the end. With that, I'll stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you, Michelle.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, Mark, for that wonderful introduction. I'm very humbled and honored to be with you today. I am going to go ahead and stop my video. Help with some of the bandwidth. And share my screen. Looks like we're set to go.
Yes, we can see your screen. You're ready to go.
Okay, beautiful. So again, welcome to the 2020 MTSS Fest afternoon session. I really am honored again to be here with you today, making history in this virtual platform. I want to thank you for gracing me with your presence and choosing this session to attend. Again, thank you, Mark, for the introduction. I'm Michelle Bell-Navis, bringing you greetings from the Wisconsin RTI Center, where I serve with a team as a Culturally Responsive Practices Technical Assistance Coordinator, that's a mouthful, for the state of Wisconsin. I have had the honor of working with Justin Poulos and thank him again for this invitation to be a part of the fest. So you have joined this session to answer that question, what is culturally responsive teaching with VABB? So I'm inviting you to come with me for the next hour on a journey to being fabulous. Our vision and mission at the Wisconsin RTI Center is to assure that all Wisconsin students will learn and be successful in life. And our mission is that we build capacity of Wisconsin schools to develop and sustain an equitable multi-level system of supports to ensure success for all students. So we are about academic and behavior success. As Mark mentioned in my introduction, I am a proud mother of 2 sons. I'm going to dedicate this session today to one of my sons, the younger of 2. My passion for this work is both professional and personal. So I do bring my sons with me on this culturally responsive practices journey, dedicating to my son, Izzy, who is a Sun Prairie High School senior, class of 2020 graduate, dedicating it to him and all of our other classmates, 2020 graduates, who are also making history today. In these unprecedented times, we need to come with bold equity muscles, learning how to be creative, innovative, and taking those steps to overcome some of the obstacles, which is the silver lining to our current state of being. I am going to be highlighting student voice throughout this hour as I dedicate to our class of 2020. I invite you with me as we go through our agenda, just to take 1 minute to release the trauma, the stress and trauma that we're currently living with, and just give yourself a little love. Pat yourself on the back, give yourself a hug. Just say thank you to yourself for all that you are doing. We can be here together today knowing that someone else might not be able to have this opportunity that we have. And in the process, we really are building our equity muscles. In the words of Dr. Holly, whose shoulders we stand on in doing this work, just tell yourself today that you're happy and you are fortunate to be with us today. I also want you to know that the goal of today's session is for you to understand what it is to VABB, how to make connections to the keynote from George Sagai, and gather classroom practices and activities that support you on your journey to being culturally responsive to all students and to leave with something to do tomorrow to VABB. Mark did mention that he's monitoring Q&A so that we will check in those before, during, and after, just to make sure that we're addressing some of those questions that you might have. So when we are talking and relating and teaching and making meaningful, we do have some scholars whose shoulders we stand on. I mentioned Dr. Holly, and he reminds us what it really is to be culturally and linguistically responsive in our teaching with VABB. When we VABB, we validate who our students are. We affirm their student identities. And then we build and bridge strong connections from what we learn about our students and their identities toward their academic achievement. That is what culturally and linguistically responsive teaching does. I bolded some words here that I really want you to jot down and keep with you as we go through our time today. The importance of not only talking, but also relating to the students differently and teaching them differently. And it's more than just the content, which is usually where we want to go first, is what do I teach? What are the lessons? What are the curriculum? What are the lesson plans? It's also making meaningful some of the changes in our teaching practice. So I just want you to read the quote given to us by Dr. Shiraki Holly on the bottom of your screen. So as we gain wisdom from scholars like Baruti Kafele and Jawanza Kunjufu, it's really important for us to know that as we gain wisdom from these scholars, that they are giving us research and evidence-based practices, teaching us some things that we might not know, and reminding us the importance of keeping the students in mind first, that we teach the student first, and then the subjects follow. I'm going to ask also a little bit to help me get to know you. So I'm going to ask for Mark to activate the poll. This gives me an opportunity to start building a relationship with you. Again, validating, affirming, building, and bridging. You might have a main job with other responsibilities that you serve in. I'm just really wanting to know what your main job is. So if you can respond to that poll, that would be great in helping me get to know you a little bit more. So it looks like our audience, classroom teachers, which is what I had anticipated. And then we have other. I have some school level administrators, advisor coach, some support staff, and district level administrators. Okay, great. So we have, looks like 52 classroom teachers. I'm curious about the other.
Michelle, if people want to relay any information, they'll need to use the Q&A, which I'm
Okay.
monitoring. Also, we noticed that just while I'm on for a second, noticed a few people are using the raised hand function, which the only way they have to either ask questions or anything is through the Q&A box. So just look for the Q&A button at the bottom of your toolbar, participants, and you can communicate with me through that.
Got you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the results. We can stop sharing. Looks like I have a wide variety of participants, which is great. And I'm sure that you will be able to translate any of the information that you will gather today to your specific role. And I thank you for sharing that with me. So I'm going to keep moving on. So just a brief reminder that as we move through our session today, that we are talking about how our work needs to focus on system components. We know as we collaborate together, that is what transforms systems. I'm going to be giving you some big ideas, and then I'm going to show you how to apply them to your practice with some cultural examples. And then again, as you've received this information and think about the culture of your school, your district, your community, how you can translate these ideas to your particular environment. When we become VABulous, we are examining the impact of the way our system is set up to see how it benefits all, some, or none. As examples, thinking about all students having access. Are they having access to some of our AP classes, some of our student council opportunities in leadership roles? So please use the ideas, the examples, and then translate them to your particular practice or environment. So in Wisconsin, where I reside, we have 464 school districts, 2,238 schools, and we collaborate to transform the system that is in place through the Department of Public Instruction, the Disproportionality Technical Assistance Network, and the Wisconsin RTI Center. We all are supported from our state superintendent through district administration, school leaders, teachers, and also embracing our community involvement as well. So we do have many resources that I just wanted to give you access to research and find out more. Many resources, and the important part is that you enter through one door, starting your journey through any of the doors that you see before you. Just enter, just like you are today by participating in the MTSS Fest. So as we continue to strengthen our relationship, which is a very important part of being VABulous, I want you to tell me a little bit more. I know that part of the MTSS framework is to empower cultures. So in thinking about that, recognizing and considering your own culture and influences and how they affect the way you might talk, what your expectations are, how you teach and interact with colleagues, students, and their families, how important is it to recognize and consider? As you empower cultures, do you agree, disagree, neither agree or disagree, that this is something that you recognize and consider as you are embracing, engaging, and empowering others? So I see strongly agree residing. Which gives me hope. So thank you. That gives me permission then to continue to move forward. You can end the polling. Thank you for that feedback. As we go forward on this journey together, asking what you don't know, it's okay not to know it all and to seek to know more. That's how we become better at what we do. Knowing is powerful. It holds us and others accountable for our actions. Remembering that what you believe is how you behave. And it's important to look at our intentions, which we all are well-intentioned, and then thinking about the impact that we have from our actions. Thank you again for sharing your honest feedback with me. So as we move through uncharted territory, sometimes there's need for agreements to have some of the courageous conversations when we are becoming change agents. I consider you who are participating today to be the chosen ones. We are the ones chosen to lead, model, and advocate for equity. These agreements help us have those conversations that are sometimes difficult. So I would just use these 4 points as reminders to listen fully. That means with your ears, eyes, and heart. To be able to listen and to speak your truth without blame or judgment. To notice some of those moments of discomfort that you might feel in this very moment, and to stay curious with me as we go along together, and also to be open to the experience of each other, knowing that this work doesn't end, so we accept and expect non-closure. This is guided by the work of Glenn Singleton. So when you are culturally responsive in your educating, you VABB. You validate, you affirm, you build, and you bridge. This is prioritized by building those trusting relationships where you check your approach, your attitude, and your atmosphere so that you embrace, engage, and empower all. This is what being a culturally responsive educator looks, sounds, and feels like. When we think about the relationship building and being culturally responsive in your practice, that's the C, the R, and the P. It doesn't mean that the student moves to where the teacher is. We as the teachers and educators and leaders manage the dynamics of difference, seeing that the student and family before us have identities and experiences that might sound, look, and feel different than our own. So what we need to do is to get our VABB on to educate. The first step, I'm going to use an example from my home school district in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, is to really know your data. And this means that you own your vision of being equitable and to provide culturally responsive practices connected to your data. In this particular school, Northside Elementary School, this is what they decided to do. They decided to own their vision and know that their data told them 89% of their Black students were at basic and below on their English language arts assessment. As they understood their behavior data, they looked at majors and minors, seeing the disproportionate number in that data, which prompted them to do more digging as far as why. Why was there a disproportionate number of majors and minors for students of color, specifically males, and what can they do about that? So they decided to have an equity goal. The equity goal addressed the need to change their environment and their culture to reflect positive identity development and a sense of belonging for the students and families that they serve. They decided to stop expecting students and families to adapt to them and began to adapt their practices to meet the needs of their students and their families. This data that I just shared with you is common data across the state of Wisconsin, and then taking the ownership in their academic and behavior data was their first step in owning their vision. We know that we can't deny the naked eye. We have disproportionate data in Wisconsin where we have a high percentage of students who are talented and gifted, yet a higher percentage of students of color who are not achieving academic success. Once we know the what of culturally responsive practices, and we know the why looking at our data, now the how is how to be fabulous. So when you are in your work, collaborating across your district, across schools, the need is there to review your underserved students, talk honestly about what different change needs to happen. Think about one thing to do differently to respond to the population of students that are in the gap, and then identify some people to share out those new ideas to the whole group. So setting those intentions are very crucial. When you have the meetings to really look at your data, to know, to understand the data, and then decide on doing something different, I want you to focus in on the second point of a VABB process, where you validate and affirm with a problem-solving team those students who are in the gap, and how you can provide culture and linguistic responsive support for those students and families. I'm going to give you some ideas on how to do that. So in Wisconsin, we live by a vision where we provide equitable, multi-level systems of supports, very similar to your MTSS, where you see equity at the center. This framework is embedded in all of the other key features. So the goal in mind is to challenge and change inequitable access and opportunity and outcomes that are experienced by those students in the gap that I shared with you earlier from the Sun Prairie schools. Those currently underserved, how do we challenge and change the access to change the outcomes that we receive? Equity is at the center. And when we put it all together in Wisconsin, through the Wisconsin RTI work with reading and math, through the PBIS work with behavior, infused with culturally responsive practices, we have our equitable multi-level system of support, which provides services, practices, and resources to all students based upon their responsiveness to instruction and intervention that is effective to them. So we follow a model that is paralleled to the equitable multi-level system of supports called our model to inform our practices. This model to inform our practices talks to us specifically about beliefs, knowledge, and practices that are needed to reach and teach students that come with diversity and teach them using culturally responsive, equitable multi-level systems of support. The important piece here, it's not a checklist or a toolkit, but it's a way of being and knowing. It's about how we show up to do the work of school. Again, I reminded you earlier that I'm going to be sharing with you from a student voice that gives us an idea of what will, fill, and skill building looks like. When we are building our will, we are thinking about that desire and passion to meet the needs of all students. And I believe you already bring that with you. It's about believing and doing and filling ourselves with some of the backgrounds and interests of our students and their families so that our teaching is relevant. And then the skill piece is really about creating curriculum and training and implementing curriculum that respects the students that we are serving. This will, fill, and skill building are resources that you can bring into your teaching and then become an equity champion. You're doing something different to make a difference. And I want you right now to pause and think about a colleague, a student, a parent, a community member, a family member that you know that you can really touch in a different way through either your will building, your fill building, or your skill building. First step in looking at that model to inform is the yellow portion called will building, that desire to lead. Then we move to the fill building, gaining cultural knowledge, and then we use that to apply that knowledge to our skill building. The student voice that I'm going to share with you in the will building pieces are really what it looks, sounds, and feels like when we become self-aware, when we examine the system's impact on our families and our students who are most striving to succeed, and having that belief that all students will learn. Not that they can learn, but that they will learn. It's that desire and passion to lead with will building. So we're going to share with you a short clip. In the will building piece, becoming self-aware from students in Kenosha at Lincoln Elementary. If you cannot quite hear as well, we're encouraging you to increase the volume on your computer or whatever technological equipment you are using so that you can get a better volume on this clip.
I too sing America. I am dark and lovely. They try to bring me down by saying my skin is ugly. I am laughing, but I'm tired of being forgotten in the midst. They see me as a problem. I am broken and need to be fixed. I am from a different race.
I am my brother's keeper.
I am a young lady. They say that there is something wrong with me.
They try to bring me down so I can't function either. Sometimes I think of my father, so he wasn't there. Tomorrow I keep my head up and hide my despair.
I am a shadow of my former self. They say I'm the quiet one, so I never say anything. They try to judge me by telling me we don't have similarities. Put me down and yell in my face. And I don't want to follow others. and be exactly the same. That I should pay attention to the standards of society.
I think of my future and sometimes of my past.
I know my race and the origins of its land, and that gives me the reason to unite my race and take stand.
Tomorrow I'll be a little louder than yesterday or the day before. Too many people have fought, and too many people have died without living.
Nobody will ever realize others' pain, because when nobody understands, they point the blame.
But for right now, I want to be someone who is compared or contrast.
I stay true to who I am.
Deserve just as much respect.
Tomorrow someone will see the light. I'll pray for the ones who have. I am broken and need to be fixed.
I am ambitious and love the roots of my race. Besides, they'll realize that I'm just me, beautiful, and be embarrassed with their actions. I too am America. Tomorrow is a new day. I'll be stronger in every way, because by they say my skin is ugly,
And that there's nothing to fix. Because we too are America.
nobody will ever bring me down. I'll just sit down and smile. I love myself. I am dark and lovely. Besides, they'll see my black is beautiful. I too am American.
I too sing America.
I too sing America.
I too sing America.
I too sing America.
I too am American. I too sing America. I too sing America.
So I'm going to check in quickly to see if you were able to hear.
Yeah, I could hear it fine on my end, Michelle.
And were you able to see the visual?
The poem,
Yes.
yes, on your slide.
Okay. I just was checking to make sure that everyone could see.
Yeah, we lost your slide momentarily, I think, as you switched back from the clip, but it's back up now.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so becoming self-aware, again, thinking about the power behind that as we fill ourselves with cultural knowledge, knowing that we all have unique identities and worldviews, and learning about the community that we are serving is another opportunity for us to gain that cultural knowledge. This is what we do to follow that curriculum that we are building and giving ourselves opportunity and responsibility to teach and respect the culture of the students and populations we are serving, understanding that we all have cultural knowledge to gain. So in this fill building piece, I'd like to share with you another clip, understanding we all have unique identities and worldviews. And this one is titled, If She Only Knew Me.
If she only knew. If she only knew that I had to get my little brother up and ready for school this morning, she wouldn't have fussed at me for being a few minutes late. If she only knew that I didn't get to eat supper last night, she wouldn't have taken the extra cereal that Chris gave me at breakfast. She said, "Only one cereal for each student. That's the rule at this school." If she only knew that I had to watch my little brother last night while my mama was at the park with her friends, she wouldn't have punished me for not getting my homework done. If she only knew that I like to make stuff during science class, she would have let us make rockets like Miss Bacon's class. Instead, we read about rockets from a book. If she only knew that her rules were as long as the lines at the city pool, she would make a shorter list that we could remember. If she only knew that my daddy left me and my mama when I was 2, she would stop telling me that she was going to call my daddy for a conference. If she only knew that I get really upset when Leonard talks about my mama, her biggest rule would be no talking about other people's mamas. If she only knew how much I love to draw, she would make me the class poster maker. Instead, she doesn't let me because my handwriting isn't so great. If she only knew that I need to talk if I'm going to learn, she wouldn't send me to the principal's office so much. She says my talking is disruptive in the classroom. She's the only person talking. In my opinion, that's disruption. If she only knew when she gets mad and screams at the class, it scares me. Last year, Miss Dooley never raised her voice at me. Miss Dooley was as quiet as a crook after midnight. When Miss Dooley talked, kids listened. If she only knew that some of the boys are trying to get me to join their gang, she would help me say no. If she only knew how much I like to run, she would have told me about last week's track team sign-up. If she only knew how much I needed my mentor here at school, she would let me see him more. He thinks I'm cool. If she only knew I know stuff that she doesn't know. I know where to get bus tokens. I know what time the city bus passes to school. I know the best place to buy a pop. I know what time the sprinklers come on at the park. I know what it means to be dissed. I know how to live without electricity. I know how to entertain an entire room of people with my personality and humor. I know what trucks have the best rummage sales. I know how to stay safe in my neighborhood. I know how to keep my clothes from being stolen at the laundromat. I know a lot more than she thinks I do.
So as we come back, were you able to hear and see?
Yes, it came through very well.
Awesome, thank you. So knowing that we all have unique identities and worldviews, again, from a student voice lens, I want us to finally talk about the skill building, where we use practices and curriculum that respects the culture of our students, accepting that institutional responsibility to lead, model, and advocate for equity, as we heard from students. That last piece is the skill building, the how and why of our teaching, focusing in on us, the staff, to tailor our practices to the needs of the students that we serve. And of course, this is the light bulb moment. How will you take this information back to your school, district, and teach staff some of the will, fill, and skill building that is necessary. As we know about our students' cultural beliefs, we create a bridge between home and school while we are meeting district and state requirements, engaging all students with a variety of teaching strategies and skills. Those skills help us to get our VABB on. They remind us during this time of distance learning the importance of validating, affirming, building, and bridging. Here are some specific ideas of how we can do that to touch the gifts of kinesthetic learning, spontaneous learning, and sociocentric learning, where we encourage those cultural gifts to shine: verbal and artistic expression, musicality and rhythm, resilience, personal style, uniqueness. Bringing my son Izzy back into the room today, I hear him upstairs on a Zoom call now, laughing with his teachers, sharing some of his graphic art design, creating beats for his music composition class, and feeling involved through a virtual platform. It's a challenge, but it is possible to be responsive, to meet our students in a way where they're feeling like they matter and they belong during this unpredictable time, now more than ever, treating all with that same fairness, with collective work and responsibility, self-determination, creativity, and most importantly, love. When we validate, we make legitimate that which the institution has made illegitimate. We affirm those behaviors, make them positive, when mainstream sometimes tends to make them negative. Especially for our students of color who are most striving to succeed, how do we make connections? We build on their home culture and language, and we bridge to school culture and language through the activities that I just shared, giving them opportunities now to bridge home to school with culture and language. I have noted an example here that I won't open now because I know that our time is coming to an end, but this is a very helpful tool that we have gathered in our work in developing classroom management modules for PBIS, and it describes a cultural behavior example of how we really talk about the VABB, how we validate and affirm home culture, language, and bridge to expectations at school, building on those gifts that the students bring. So in closing, as we focus on cultural norms and cultural values, we ask questions, we have courageous conversations to develop will-filled skill that is necessary for us to meet and make a difference with our most striving to succeed students. We know relationships are built on interactions. Another light bulb moment, we all have identities that are culturally related, and so do our students and families. So how do we meet in the middle and not just attend to one or the other? If unattended, the staff culture guides the interactions. So when we validate and affirm other cultural values, other cultural beliefs, then we are understanding and building a common classroom context that embraces the dynamics of difference before us. Some examples of classroom activities that build cultural identities in a positive way, where gifts are validated and affirmed, is through talking differently to our students, relating differently to them, and then teaching them differently. with expectations of high performance. So we have multiple activities, joint activities. We arrange our environment so that we have opportunities for students to work jointly. Our staff engages in the learning with them. And we have groupings that are organized on factors that relate to communalism and working together. That collaboration is supported in positive ways. So in leaving today, there are 3 questions that I want you to ponder as you move through the rest of our time together and your time together at the MTSS Fest. When we focus on these questions and have these conversations, we are building relationships and interactions that have multiple perspectives, building those positive identities, changing outcomes. So thinking about my identity and how it impacts others. How do I show up in doing will and feel building to develop my skills? And how can we be mindful of our identities and of our students and families as we implement will and feel building? There are some bullets here of some technical assistance sessions and resources that we have developed at the Wisconsin RTI Center that accent will, feel, and skill building through experiences of our CR team. It involves looking at ourselves from the inside out. It talks about experiences that build new life into our practices through the 7 experiences, how we use data, as I shared in our first example from some Prairie schools, to respond to our multi-level systems of support and providing culturally responsive practices with the focus on identity development. So I'm going to stop there and thank you for your time. I know we have about 8 minutes left. If there are any questions that might have come up, I know this was a lot of content for, it seemed like a very short period of time, went really fast.
That's great. Thank you, Michelle. I've been seeing a lot of appreciation in the Q&A box. Also, congratulations to Izzy from the group. One of the common questions is people wanted to make sure that the clips that you showed are accessible through your materials and that they are permitted to use them as well.
Yes, the answer is yes, absolutely. They're all embedded into the PowerPoint that will be posted on the MTSS information site.
Okay.
And they are permissible for use, yes.
Okay, great. And let's see, so far I have one question besides technical things about clock hours. Somebody asked early on, so some of this might have been answered already, partly by your clip, if she only knew, but the person asked this question: what are some of the more damaging practices, culturally and linguistically speaking, that teachers and schools use without realizing they're hurting students?
Beautiful. When I think about damaging practices, and I can speak again from a student voice perspective, that's where I base a lot of my experiences and knowledge, is low expectations. Not expecting the most out of our most striving to succeed students that are in the gap, simply because they think they are not capable and not able to complete certain tasks, given some of the messaging that has transpired over the years. So when I talk specifically to teachers and staff and to my own sons, It's really about expecting the most. It's the ones who need the most support are the ones that we have to give extra love and support to. So expecting the most and not the least, and not making assumptions about their abilities or capabilities. I hope that answers that question. Are the participants able to say if that helps in your chat, or can I see that?
They might in a bit. It's
Okay.
kind of a one-way street here.
Gotcha. Okay. No worries.
We have a few more that I will. One person asked, as you have seen when you started implementing VABB.
One more time, please.
What are the changes you've observed when you've started implementing VABB through your
Yes,
work?
right. So we have been fortunate enough to have some culturally responsive sites that have coaching teams that actually are led by Dr. Shiraki Holly's coaching staff, who implement the VABB protocol and procedures within their daily practice. And two things that we have noticed, specifically in an event called Read Your Heart Out, which you'll also find in my PowerPoint. That's a whole nother session, but the Read Your Heart Out opportunity engages students in a way where they feel validated and affirmed through culturally responsive text, where we accent protagonists rather than antagonists in the text. We focus in on the effect of building positive identity and putting students in leadership roles, validating them through their cultural being, through musicality, through rhythm, through performances, and how it affects the office discipline referral rate. So during these events where we are intentional about building on cultural identity and increasing family engagement through that event, that office discipline referrals are drastically reduced, and also academic support and engagement and text reading levels specifically connected to positive identities are increased.
Okay, thank you. This is probably a quick question. Do you have more examples of student perspectives like the ones that you showed in the presentation? And I think if there are, basically you could send them to us at OSPI and we can post them, but if you want to briefly respond, and if there's more that you could provide.
Sure. So we do a lot of student interviews and have a lot of student leadership roles established, again, from the VABB perspective and looking through a VABB lens. And the one clip that I didn't get to show because we ran out of time is called Important to Me. And it is a clip demonstrating how important students feel and how they feel like they belong and they matter through a teacher lens. So they interview teachers and then they come back and share their findings with the teacher who really has touched their lives in the way where they feel validated and affirmed. So if you click on that last slide, Important to Me, in my PowerPoint, you'll be able to view that one. It's all students. And then we also have an equity panel through the Wisconsin Education Association Council that I can share also, that talks from a lens of different cultural backgrounds and their experiences in school.
Okay, great. So I think if there's any more resources you could provide, I'd be happy to help get those posted on the conference website as well.
I would definitely do that.
Thank you. We're just about out of time, so I think at least to pose the last question before the wrap up, there's one here that says, what examples or advice would you give PBIS school teams to authentically engage with parents and families to VABB and enhance systems and practices?
The first thing I would recommend for a PBIS team to engage with families is first to listen, just to listen. Invite, have parents be a part of your decision-making. There are recognized schools that we look at. I did mention Sun Prairie, that is my home school district. 2 schools, North Side and West Side, who have that as a focus with their PBIS team. And listening wholeheartedly is number 1. They have renamed their PBIS coach as a greatness coach, where there is a focus on building greatness within the school through their family engagement.
Great, thank you. And we have some other good questions, but unfortunately, we're out of time for the regular session. We do have a record of the questions. One of the things I want to say as part of the wrap up is that we are happy to field additional questions and direct them to Michelle at the Center for the Improvement of Student Learning at OSPI, where both I and Justin, our MTSS director, work. And the email should be on your screen. It's sissel@k12.wa.us. I will make sure that a lot of people have asked about the clips, and we'll make sure that those links are working in the file that's posted on the conference website. There have been a variety of questions I haven't been able to respond to in real time related to materials and clock hours. And I want to direct people again to the MTSS Fest 2020 website. There is a link where you can access these materials. It's also the page where the recording of this presentation will be posted, so you can see it again or share it with colleagues. And Michelle's materials will also be found there. The link for the clock hours, which if you need clock hours and you've already registered with PD Enroller, you should be good to go, and we'll match those enrollments to the people who actually signed on today to make sure that people get their clock hours. But if you need them and haven't done that yet, you should go to this page, MTSS Fest 2020, and click on the clock hour link to enroll through PD Enroller by the end of the day today. And with that, I want to thank Michelle again for a great presentation, very helpful and thought-provoking with some great materials to follow up for our audience. And I saw a lot of appreciation from folks for your presentation and the materials that you provided. And I know that sounds like they're very looking forward to sharing a lot of what you presented and the clips with their colleagues. So we all appreciate you providing those for us, and it will live on going forward, and people will have the opportunity to use them. I certainly think the second clip that you showed, If She Only Knew, should probably be shown every year in every school as really critical things to remember. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. And with that, I think we will end the presentation today. And again, you can, and I believe, Michelle, you said people can email you as well.
Yes.
So Michelle's email is in her slide deck as well, so you can get in touch with her, or just go to the Wisconsin RTA website under the Contact Us. You can also find her email there. So thank you again, Michelle.
Thank you.